Breaking news from London. Number 10 Downing Street confirms reports that Prime Minister Boris Johnson has been admitted to a hospital as a precautionary measure following his lasting COVID-19 symptoms. This comes 11 days after the initial confirmation that he has contracted the virus. Back here, we want to hold on before we go there. Let me just tell you a little bit more about what's going on with Boris Johnson. So he has lasting symptoms. The hospitals there are just going to be checking him out. They think it's a good idea to check out the Prime Minister of the UK in person because he has those persistent symptoms. But they do say that he is still very much in charge of the country. We saw him briefly this morning as he opened the front door to number 10 and told reporters that he's pleading with the British public to stay home and to take this seriously. There has been some frustration among some British officials that the British public is not taking it as seriously as they should, that they're going out to parks, they're sunbathing, and there's just a little bit too much crowding going on in parks. And there's now a threat that they might close those parks and stop people from going outside to exercise, as they've done in Spain and Italy. Joining us now from London is our own Cal Perry. Cal, what else can you tell me about what's happening with the Prime Minister?
Well, a lot of what you said. So on March 26th, he tested positive. This would have been 10 days. We actually heard from him via video phone a few times in which he said he wished that he could have left his isolation after 7 days, but that he had a persistent fever, and that seems to be the symptom that finally pushed doctors to say, look, it would be better if you saw someone face to face. Now, as you've said, sources inside 10 Downing are saying this was a precautionary measure. They're certainly downplaying the symptoms. They're saying that he is fully in control. But again, certainly a sign that he has not gotten better at a timetable in which his doctors would have liked him to. Worth mentioning, and you may have done it, I was dialing in, I apologize. Worth mentioning, the government itself has been hit on many fronts. The health secretary down with the coronavirus, the chief science officer and health official were sort of behind closed doors for a week. They were hit by the coronavirus. The son of the Queen, and we heard from the Queen tonight in a historic address, only the 5th time that she's chosen to address the nation outside of the Christmas address. Her son, the future King of England, struck with the coronavirus. So it shows you under the pressure of which this government is operating, Katie.
Cal, I'm just confused about this. I know how the power line of succession works in the United States. I'm not quite sure how it works in the UK. Obviously, this is a precaution, according to sources within 10 Downing, that he's okay and he's still in charge of the government, but he is being admitted to the hospital to be checked out. And I think it is worth asking if the symptoms do get worse and he is not as functional as maybe he should be to run a government, who takes over?
Yeah, so Michael Gove, who is the defunct deputy prime minister, and we're going to shortly run into the extent of my knowledge, is sort of number 2 there. Worth mentioning that these daily pressers that are being given have been on a rotating basis. We heard from Gove yesterday. We had hoped to hear from the health secretary every day, Matt Hancock. But as I said, he's been down until very recently, until about 48 hours ago. There was some discussion about this, about what would happen and whether or not there needed to be sort of somebody out front of this. And the Prime Minister made it very clear that he was going to continue to direct things from 11 Downing, which is just next door and adjacent to 10 Downing, where he's been under quarantine. He fashions himself and compares himself and looks up very much to Winston Churchill. This is something he has said publicly. So he's taken great pride in leading the government through this period. Now, again, on background, sources at 10 Downing are saying he is still in charge. We'll have to wait and see how long he's in hospital. He has officially been admitted, and while, again, they call it a precaution, the questions like the one that you just asked are now going to be asked in a serious way across this government.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.